Good afternoon and welcome to GPA Trading Services Master Trader Program webinar. As I said, we're so pleased you could join us today. Let me introduce myself. I am Trish N. Albrecht, the co-founder of GPA Trading Services, and I'm going to serve as your co-host for today's festivities. And here's a photo of yours truly. And for those of you that have not had an opportunity to visit our website, here is a screenshot we took for you to introduce you to our website, and we invite you to go visit our website and peruse all that we have to offer. We have information about our services and pictures to share, and so we invite you to do so at gpatrading.com. Then next up, I always think it's nice to share a little bit of insight into who you're going to be listening to. So this is a photo of Gary and I. Gary and I love to travel and have exciting adventures. So we were fortunate enough to spend about a month on the beautiful and marvelous island of Maui recently. And this is one of the photos of us out enjoying the gorgeous scenery. As you can see, the beautiful sunset in the background. So I thought you might enjoy seeing that and hearing a little bit about who we are, what we like to do. Now we'll move on to today's topic. Today's topic is supercharge your options trading by anticipating future market conditions utilizing the MPA-PE2 software. So our goal with today's webinar is we hope to broaden your horizons to new trading opportunities and open your mind to all the possibilities that are available utilizing our wonderful trading education and software. And before we begin, we kind of wanted to get a feel for our audience. We understand most of you trade options, but we wanted to find out, do you trade other things as well? Do you ever trade the forex market? Do you trade gold, oil, stocks? Can you type in what other areas of interest you may have other than options trading? Futures, okay. Anybody else want to type in some other areas of interest? I just see futures. Not a very chatty group. Okay, we have futures, all right.
E-minis?
E-minis, I guess, or... Well, we'll just proceed and go through and go over everything that we have to offer, but we'd like you guys to type in and give us some feedback and some information about your trading while we go through the process, okay? We also are firm believers in affirmations and mantras and things to focus on throughout your trading endeavor. And so before we begin, I wanted to read this to you. This is a very important mantra, and I thought it was appropriate for today's webinar. So let me read this to you briefly. Learning is not attained by chance. It must be sought for with ardor and attended to with diligence. Very important. Let me repeat that. Learning is not attained by chance. It must be sought for with ardor and attended to with diligence. And that is extremely important, not only in your trading endeavor, but in all aspects of your life. And Gary and I stand firmly behind that, and I think it's important to share and think about as you go through your trading endeavors. Also, we have a disclaimer. It's a standard disclaimer. As you all know, trading involves risk. Therefore, we stress, do not trade with money you cannot afford to lose. Always trade with protective stops. Adhere to strict and proper money management, critically important. And all information provided for you today is for your educational purposes. Okay? Now, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Gary, and he's going to walk you through the rest of the process, and then I'll come back on later and chat with you some more. So please, as we like to say, please sit back, relax, and enjoy today's presentation. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon. As my wife introduced, I'm Gary R. Albrecht. I'm the founder and CEO of GPA Trading Services. I'm also the creator and mastermind behind the Market Price Anticipator Premium Edition 2 software. I also educate and instruct our live classes. A couple of components we'll cover real briefly before we go straight to the magic of the software and the charts. Key components in anticipating future market conditions. Everyone's aware support and resistance plays a nice role. Direction of the trend is very important. One of the key components of this software is utilizing multiple time frames, and certainly understanding how the lower time frames cycle within the larger time frames. We refer to that as the line of progression. As the time frames cycle, there will be a line of progression that exhibits itself over and over and over, and that happens regardless if you're trading stocks, commodities, futures, forex. Doesn't matter the financial market, the principle is the same. That's the good news. So let's go to the charts to demonstrate how these components are used to anticipate future market conditions. So please give me a yes, yes, and a yes once I open up the charts, and you can verify you can see my trading platform. See the chart, you see my cursor, and you can still hear me. That's what the yes, yes, and yes is about if you're wondering why 3. This is Facebook. Everyone knows Facebook. Probably one of the familiar stocks as of late to trade. So what does this software do for us that can help me supercharge option trading? Well, or any type of trading. So we're not limited to simply just stocks. We can trade any symbol, and we'll go over different types of symbols today to show you that no matter what the symbol that you're watching and exhibiting utilizing the software, the same rules will apply. So the software comes into play, and we mentioned first support and resistance. The software automatically calculates support and resistance based on previous price action, and that's calculated for you. Secondly, the direction of the trend. Well, down here we have what we call a trend momentum, and it tells me the direction of the trend per time frame. So as I move, I can see that yes, I do have, in this instance here where this purple line is, I do have the stock price moving lower on Facebook. Well, how could I know that the stock price is ready to reverse and start moving when it was in such a strong uptrend? Well, the trend starts to change direction, right? Not only the trend momentum, but we have a second one called price action indicator. And these two combined will give me the direction of the trend, and whether I continue to trade the direction of the trend and continue for longer periods, or are we going to get a major reversal and see price absolutely reverse in the opposite direction. So we said the magic was support and resistance. We need to know the direction of the trend. That would be very important. Now it's about the cycling time frames. Well, this software will automatically calculate how the time frames are cycling. So with Facebook, you'll notice there's some triggers we call up here triggers. Some are smaller, and then there's a very large trigger here. There are different types of triggers that will fire under different market conditions. Well, what does all this mean? It means that the software not only will take into consideration the trend of a particular time frame, but it will actually look to the lower time frames and say, are you in agreement with the fact that Facebook is ready to reverse and move lower? As it looks lower, it says, yes, I am ready to move lower. And what does that look like? Well, if I go to the 1 hour time frame, as you can see, let me scroll back to the time where this occurred. We can see the 1 hour was in the same process of topping and reversing when that 4 hour was also in the process of topping and reversing. So it looks to the lower time frames and says, hey, are you in agreement with the top and reverse? If the answer is yes, you'll get certain types of triggers. So as it looks to the left, it says, yes, my 15:30 1 hour are in agreement. My 4 hour happens to be the time frame we're on. It's in agreement, ready to turn over and flipping towards the downside. And it even looks toward the daily and says, okay, daily, are you in agreement with that scenario? And notice the daily is also, and I'll put this back to the center, the daily is also in agreement at that same moment in time. So what's the use of this software, and how can it benefit me whether I'm trading stocks, options, futures, commodities? It doesn't matter the market in which I'm trading. We all need to know the direction of the trend, and we need to know what direction will price move. And when the time frames align, that gives you a highest probability of direction of trend. But this software goes well beyond just organizing time frames. It continues to do the process even in the midst of a daily. As it's topping and rolling, that little trigger meant, hey, my lower time frames are in agreement, my 4 hour was in agreement, my daily is in agreement. But as the daily starts to unfold, is the daily starting to move lower with the weekly or against the weekly? So remember the key of the software. It is taking into consideration all the directions of all time frames. So this bigger view, you can see, well, Facebook was on a tear toward the upside. Well, does it show the same results on an up move as it would a down move? The answer is yes. It will take into consideration all time frames as they line up. And all I got to simply do is look at the direction of the trend. Is the trend turning to the upside? Is the price action indicator moving in the same direction as the trend? And if they're both in agreement, then price will move in that direction. But notice, when we start to see, in this case of a weekly, my weekly started to move from oversold, as we call this, to overbought. It starts to turn back over. How could I have anticipated this weekly was going to turn over and this phenomenon we call slingshot higher, turn over again, and slingshot higher, turn over again, and still slingshot? Well, these are the signs and symptoms and characteristics that the software will exhibit. And again, it doesn't matter if it's a stock, it's a future, it's a commodity, doesn't matter the symbol, the same principles apply. So how does this software help me anticipate future market conditions? Because as the market moves in the direction of the higher trend, the lower time frames will exhibit very specific behavior. And this phenomenon we call slingshotting is just how the lower time frames cycle against the move. My weekly starts to move down, my daily comes down. It then decides on a weekly perspective that it's going to slingshot higher. What exactly is this slingshot higher phenomenon? Well, it's basically the same thing. It's where my daily, as I go back to show you this instance, it's where my daily starts to bottom. It was going up initially. It slingshots higher and higher with that weekly. The weekly turns over here, starts moving lower. So my daily does the exact opposite. It starts to move lower, and once it finally bottoms and reverses, it causes that weekly to engage higher. And we'll see that over and over and again. Well, how do I know the weekly is going to slingshot higher and higher and not start reversing? Well, this whole time, not only is my weekly turning and slingshotting higher, but it tells me my monthly is moving up that whole time in this area. Then it decides to do what? Even the monthly slingshot it higher here. This is how phenomenal this is as I analyze multiple time frames. What does that mean? I have to go to every chart of every time frame in order to assess this. That's where the trigger system comes in. It does this automatically for you and presents you with different triggers to tell you, well, based on this, not only do we have one time frame turning over and moving lower, but it's in agreement with the other time frames doing the same thing. So this is what's key, is that not only is support and resistance important, but as the time frames align, I will get simple entry-exit symbols, and that's based on what? My triggers, my time frames aligning, and I can trade this to the downside, and I can know when I should get a retracement. In the midst of these stronger trends, right, higher time frame trends, then I know I would expect for my price action to move, and eventually the time frames cycle against the move. So if you ever ask yourself, why does stock price or forex price or any price, any symbol, tend to stair step even in the strongest of trends? I don't care how strong the trend is, it's still going to stair step its way in the direction of the overall higher trend. And there are times when that trend will take a temporary hiatus while the other time frames are cycling down. So in general, to make things easy, the software is supposed to cycle from oversold to overbought, overbought to oversold, oversold to overbought, overbought to oversold, and on and on. Well, there is a time when it gets interrupted. How can it get interrupted? By the slingshot phenomenon. And again, what exactly is the slingshot phenomenon? It is where the lower time frames are cycling against the higher time frames, and then it shows that it snaps back with the higher time frame as that lower time frame. And again, I'll show you to illustrate. We can do this in past history, and we can do it even before the market even forms to show it, and it will actually do it well in advance before it actually happens. So I'm going to take this one off so you stay focused on where I'm going to show you this. And I'm going to change this line from purple to aqua so you can see exactly what we're showing, that this phenomenon of slingshots, we can anticipate in advance that my weekly, once it turns over, will slingshot higher as long as that monthly is moving higher. So again, what did the daily do as my weekly started to turn over? Form that slingshot back up. What did my daily actually do? My daily reversed. Here's the line. It reversed, moved lower to the point where my daily starts to bottom. Right here starts to bottom in reverse, changing direction. And by this phenomenon, not only do we get a change of direction, we also get a trigger to verify we're ready to go in an uptrend, and it coincides with this engaging slingshot higher. Everybody go now, wow! Well, how does that help me with options? Well, option trading, no matter what strategy you use, still based on the underlying stock price moving, or lack thereof. So it depends on whatever strategies you have. All of you guys that trade options, are you successful options traders? Do you have option strategies, whether it's iron condors, time spreads, doesn't matter the type of option strategy you're using, are you getting consistent results? And if that strategy continues to work, then guess what? This software will only help you supercharge those results, because now you'll have a scale and a directional finder of where price is headed long before it's headed, and you get these very simple setups of signs and symptoms. So whether it's Facebook, whether it's ExxonMobil, doesn't matter the symbol, the same principle applies. Well, how did we know that we were going to get a major top and reversal as we go through the time frames and say, how do we know ExxonMobil is going to move lower, and when's it going to move higher, and when's it going to move lower, when's it going to move higher? And it's simply based on the cycling of time frames and when they joined forces with the higher time frames. So in this example, I had a daily bottoming. It's reversing toward the upside. And in this little instance here, what happened? The daily moved up, started to top and roll, and then slingshot it up. It did it again. And then all of a sudden over here, it tries it a third time and says, well, wait a minute. I was getting higher lows, higher highs, higher lows, higher highs. Now I got a low, a high, and a lower high. Uh-oh, it failed here. Why? Well, the difference between these two lines, and I'll take this one off, just for demonstration purposes, as my daily cycles up, what direction is my weekly here? And then my daily exhibits this where it tries it again, fails, and moves lower. Well, the only difference in these two is that my weekly's moving up here and my weekly's moving down there. Very simple process. My weekly's moving up there, and then on the other side of this line, my weekly starts engaging in a slingshot lower, reversing direction. And I know this in advance. Why? Because my monthly is in the process of moving lower. Wow. You can tell that with that degree of accuracy by simply looking at different time frame, what the direction the trend is moving at that instance. Yeah, that's exactly correct. So even though we have major tops and reversals, isn't it important to know, hey, when I have a monthly, I have a weekly, and I have a daily all topping and reversing, that can help me to know that I can place options on a stock move and know that it should last not only for weeks, but literally for months as that major cycle continues on high time frames. Well, what can I do to help me find those potential trades? We have a software component called the Slice of Heaven Finder. It looks like this. It'll scan through stocks, futures, commodities, forex. It'll scan through, and I can dictate whether I want to know when my daily either is topping and rolling toward the bottom or it's bottoming and reversing. It'll also look for the phenomenon once it's in the process of either topping and rolling, triggering higher. It'll also look for that slingshot phenomenon. Then it'll tell you where in rotation of that cycle is the 4 hour and the 1 hour. Well, what if I'm a long-term trader and I want to know more than just when the daily turns? I want one of those you just showed me, when the monthly, the weekly, and the daily all align. You simply right-click, go on the chart, go to Expert Advisor, and now I can dictate here, well, I don't want my scan time frames to be a daily, 4 hour, 1 hour. I want those to be the monthly, weekly, and daily. I can simply set this to the monthly, then it would be the weekly, daily. Or I can set a weekly to be the weekly, daily, 4 hour. It's completely customizable. Those of you that venture off into other indices like the stocks, the Dow, S&P, gold, forex, you can actually use it for scalping techniques or day trade stocks. You can use it for when the lower time frames are aligning in the same setup. So it doesn't matter, as I mentioned, whether you're using stocks, forex, commodities, futures. The system pegs moves in any market condition by simply aligning the different time frames. So I know I've discussed several stocks. Here's an example of the S&P, and the principle remains exactly the same. The S&P, anybody trade the S&P? Anybody trade the S&P? You're going to have futures contracts out there that trade E-minis? Yes. Anybody trade E-minis? Well, what is the E-mini based on? It's based on the 1 point move of the S&P. Well, this software gives you 20, 30, 40, 50 point moves on the S&P on a consistent basis.
This is one of our trade alerts.
That's one of our trade alerts. So I know students and I know other traders out there that when they trade E-minis and it moves 2 or 3 points, they died and went to heaven thinking, man, that's awesome. I got 2-3 point move on the S&P today. I feel like I conquered the world. Well, the software went on to tell us in this trade alert, I'm telling exactly how the time frames are cycling and what to look for. And this was one specific, and I don't expect you to read all this at home, but it's basically saying during this latest down move, we had a little retracement. If my daily remains pointing up, right? If my daily remains pointing up, when that 4 hour tops and rolls, then you can scalp it to the downside for a quick scalp, but don't expect it to make new lows. I expect it would come down and then reverse and make new highs based on the slingshot higher. So if you go to this trade alert, this is an active trade alert I sent out this week. Hey, watch the trend momentum in the PAI react. My daily is moving upwards, and I'm going to watch that trend momentum in PAI. What does it do when that 4 hour turns and rolls over? What does the daily do when the 4 hour turns over? Remember the rule. The 4 hour is supposed to slingshot higher when it's going against a daily moving higher. My daily turned to the upside. It had been moving, actually slingshotting higher the previous days, but the trend momentum is TM for short, and the PAI, this is right here, PAI, price action indicator, and trend momentum, TM for short, moving up, when the 4 hour topped and rolled. So those of you that want to scalp, this was a major move down, but look at this little slingshot based on the trade alert. By that 4 hour when it engages up, notice how many points the S&P moved on this one trade alert. Now those of you that trade S&P minis, this is over a 37 point move. Hello? 37 point move from a slingshot higher that I sent out in advance before it happened. I said, watch this to unfold under these circumstances. That when the daily stays pointing up and the 4 hour turns over, then you're going to buy that 4 hour slingshot when it engages toward the upside, provided that daily TM and PAI remain pointing up. The key level still to watch right now with the S&P is this 2061, previous swing point. If we break above it, then we're going to continue with this S&P process. The next time my 4 hour decides to turn and roll over, I'm going to watch for my daily to react the same way. Does it continue to point up? If the answer is yes, then I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to buy the next 4 hour slingshot higher. Notice on the way down, here was a few trade alerts ago. When my daily started to top and roll over here, we were able to peg hundreds of point moves on the S&P on a consistent basis. We knew we had a daily topping and rolling. We knew we had a weekly topping and rolling. And we knew we had a monthly starting to top and roll, all at the time when the S&P topped. So we had a down trade underway, and we said as long as the daily stays pointing down, we're going to take not only the move lower, but we're going to run that 4-hour lower. And let me go back over here so I can draw my line for you. As long as this is moving lower, my daily moves lower, what are we going to do at the 4-hour? Once my 4-hour cycles, well, it's going with the move initially, but once that 4-hour cycles, everybody watching? Once the 4-hour cycles, if it tries to slingshot against the daily, it's going to fail. And when it does, expect further downside. Then when it bottoms, expect it to slingshot lower and lower and lower all the way home while the daily stays pointing down. Another alert went out, said, okay, now that it's unfolding toward the downside, how does this help me as trading options? Well, many of you said you trade futures. So when I said, hey, we can buy that daily degree slingshot when it turns to the upside. Remember what that is. What is this slingshot phenomenon you're talking about? It's when the red line or the blue race off from green money flow, whether it does it to the upside or to the downside, that's called slingshotting. And what is the cause and the culprit behind it? When we start to turn in reverse directions, guess what it is? It's my lower time frame bottoming and reversing. So this was a daily perspective, and again, we're back many days ago, and we need to scroll back till I find it. But here's that swing point low. When my daily started to engage up, it's due to what? My 4-hour cycling back up, my 1-hour cycling back up, my 15 and 30. We accumulate and call this multiple time frames. Workforce, 1 hour, 30, and 15 is the workforce. The 4-hour I nickname as the foreman. The foreman is important 4-hour because it's the gatekeeper between the lower time frames and the higher. And the foreman organizes price to move in the direction of the higher time frames. So in this one example, when I sent out the trade alert and I said, hey, buy that daily degree slingshot higher on the S&P. Guys that trade E-minis, we just showed you about a 40-point move here on that 4-hour slingshot. Look at this daily degree slingshot. When it started to engage and move higher, it's moving in the neighborhood of about 70 points. E-mini traders, does that interest you? That with this software, I can give you consistent 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 point moves by simply allowing the time frames to align and following the line of progression.
High probability trade.
High probability trades, simply allowing the time frames to align. And again, we get what we call triggers. We get slingshots along the way. We get all this phenomenon as the time frames align. You get the different types of triggers. Knowing we're expecting a big down move initially because of what? My time frame was topping and rolling. Well, notice the weekly. The weekly is now engaging higher. Right now, the weekly is engaging higher, it's turning and hooking up. Why did this turn and hook up and engage, you ask? How do I know that's going to happen? It happens when my time frames cycle in reverse directions. So as my weekly started to engage higher, what's happening? My daily switching directions. Switching directions, my weekly then engages higher. Pretty simple. Let's continue. Again, if many of you didn't say you trade forex, but I'll spend just a second on forex symbol because again, it doesn't matter. The same rules apply. Everybody's familiar with the pound cable, Great British Pound. Well, here it is in the same principle. When my daily is moving higher, this is the trade alert that went out in class. When the daily is moving higher and my 4-hour tops and rolls and my daily remains pointing up, what do? I buy a slingshot higher. So in this example, here it is on the currency. It moves in the neighborhood of 165 pips.
That's big money.
Pips, you add points, price interest points. For those of you who may not know what pips are called, but that's what that's for. It's the movement of the underlying, in this case, the currency. And if I trade with one standard lot, each point or each pip is worth $10. 165 times 10, that's $1,650. Well, that sounds good. What about gold? As a scanner, what I wanted to tell you too is what I'm changing. At the top of the hour, it rescans to give you the freshest symbols. So we can see Valero is showing we have an opportunity for some short-sided trade triggering lower on Valero, just for example. So it will scan whatever I tell it to scan at any point in time. Now, what symbols will it work on? It works on a variety of symbols: stocks, futures, commodities, treasury bills, you name it. There's over 800 symbols in which I can trade.
Something for everyone.
Something for everyone. So back to gold. When I trade gold, you'll see a lot of success stories around. Oops, let me move this one back over here and pull my other platform up. I have multiple platforms running. We'll look at Baidu in a minute as far as further stocks. There are many options for it. But here's a trade running on gold. Gold is up over $36 move on gold, and it simply was the same process. I got a trigger lower. I received a multiple time frames topping and rolling lower. Same principle. Gold then tried to slingshot higher and failed. Why would this fail? Because now my weekly is turning over in the same direction as my daily. So I'm going to bring it on this platform while that trade is actively running, what we call our trade management system, that manages the trade automatically for me. But here's the same principle, just showing you from a different perspective. The gold trade sends out a trade alert. It says in the last one, expect that daily slingshot to fail, and when it fails to the upside, I want you to sell and look for gold to move lower. And that move alone was about a $30+ move. And here's gold in the perspective. The monthly's moving higher, the weekly's moving lower and turning over. We got a slingshot engaging down. So while my daily topped, started to roll, I'm expecting gold to move lower. We give you GPS coordinates, turn by turn instructions where gold is headed. We give you take profit levels to look for, and we paint the picture we call the Picasso, what the software is going to look like. As this happened while the daily was starting to depressurize, I said watch the daily engage up, watch it fail, meaning it's going to make a high, a low, a lower high, and when it does and it turns back out, basically when my 4 hour tops and rolls, so go back to the 4 hour, when my 4 hour tops and rolls expected to fail, it did so. As I expand this view for you, it did so when it topped and rolled. And then since then, the latest was to sell a 4 hour slingshot, right? My daily still pointing down, my 4 hour bottoms, it depressurizes. What do? Sell the next time frame slingshot. And notice just on gold. Any gold traders out there? Gold moves a few dollars, you can make a huge amount of money. That's a $14+ move on that one simple little trade. And currently we have it running, as I just showed you, in this platform. It's actually still running, and it's up to a $36+ move, and I'm expecting that to continue to grow as the time frames continue to move in the direction of my daily lower, and they can move in the continued direction of my weekly moving lower. So what's my trade alert on gold for everyone in attendance? All I need to do is wait for my 4 hour to depressurize again, move out of oversold, come up and form this slingshot phenomenon back to the downside, and I'm going to sell it again. Notice on this strong uptrend, right? We had a strong uptrend. Why? Because we had dailies bottoming, weeklies bottoming, and moving higher this whole time. We have a trade. I'm going to show you some trade results at the end where we traded gold $125, ended up with a $140 move. $140, ladies and gentlemen. And how did we pull that off? By simply the monthly reversing direction, my weekly reversing direction, bottoming and reversing, and following it all the way up. And along the way, while my weekly and monthly were moving higher, what did my daily do along the way? Along this uptrend, it started to slingshot higher, higher, and then the top in reverse. During this longer term downtrend, what did it do? Is my weekly was moving lower, My daily was moving lower. My monthly was moving lower. My daily would slingshot lower and lower and lower and lower and lower. My weekly took a little hiatus to slingshot lower here. So did the daily. Bingo. So you can do this and ride these out long ways. Just simply by watching how the time frames cycle in reverse. But it's so much more than watching time frames cycle in reverse. You get these signs and symptoms. Think of yourself as a trader that's a doctor. When you present yourself to a physician's office, he looks for signs and symptoms to diagnose your problem. Well, if you have this, this, and this, I'll prescribe antibiotics or whatever the symptoms you present with. Well, whatever symptoms the trade's presenting with, what the time frames are doing, are they doing in agreement? We have one simple rule. We don't trade without the foreman and the workforce, meaning the 4 hour, 1 hour, 30, 15. We know what that looks like when it aligns. We get one of those big triggers, or we can simply look at the time frames as they top and roll or bottom and reverse together. That's what I trade with. Then I simply look right to say, okay, is it moving with or against that upper move? If it's moving against the upper move as it recycles, that's where these slingshot phenomenons come in. If it moves with the time frame, it's going to slingshot lower, lower, lower. If it moves against the time frame, then those lower time frames as they move against will form that phenomenon of a slingshot. That's how it continues to allow the higher time frame to make it cycle.
It's so nice to be able to diversify
It's so nice to diversify your portfolio based on that. Here's oil. As long as my weekly's turning up, black gold, Texas tea, the Beverly Hillbilly. Our students pegged this $5, $6, $7 move easily because my weekly started to turn, my daily started to turn, and even yesterday's class. As this was starting to engage lower, we said, look, take your profits and go to the short side. I'm expecting this daily will fail and price will still move higher. Why? Because my daily's trying to go against, engage against that weekly still moving up. So you can watch in the coming days, oil is going to reverse and go back to the upside with the direction of the daily continuing higher in the direction of the weekly moving up. How cool is that? So not only does the software anticipate future market moves based on what? Simply the cycling of time frames. You'll hear me say that a million times. But again, we go to the point of actually painting and showing in class, hey guys, you see this weekly turning to the upside? It's flat down here. My trend momentum is just starting to cross to make an up move. But right here, my PAI is turned up. As long as the PAI is turned up, I'm going to expect price to move higher. Well, the same result here early on. Early on, as we come down here, when my weekly started to turn, my daily started to turn, as black gold was bottoming and reversing. My 4 hour was bottoming and reversing on that swing point low. So what did we expect? We expect 4 hour, should it try to slingshot lower, is going to fail and then reverse back up. Why? Because the daily's still pushing up. What happened here? Why did that daily start engaging down? Because my 4 hour topped and rolled, causing, in this case, that daily to engage down. So you can see the phenomenon of slingshots are the direct result of time frames aligning and cycling. Here's another example. Early on, when we were up here in the 107 handle, and I said, guys, oil's headed down to around the $36 range. When we were way up here, what did we have? We had a monthly topping and rolling, right? We had a weekly topping and rolling, and during that whole process of the monthly and weekly topping and rolling, right? Monthly topping, weekly topping, daily topping, what did we see? During the process of the monthly moving lower, my weekly moved lower. What did my daily do during that whole process? My daily kept slingshotting lower and 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 lower. Huge dollars from 107 all the way down to 43. And why did the daily continue to exhibit this behavior? Because my monthly and weekly continued its journey. Do I have your attention? It's simply by anticipating future market conditions, by aligning the time frames, and then looking for very specific signs and symptoms that the software exhibits due to cycling with or against the time frames. How cool is that? So That sounds of interest, right? It doesn't matter if it's stocks, commodities, futures, forex. Showed a little example of all the above. Again, we can continue the process with further stocks, with currencies, IBM, Costco. Could we have guessed that Costco was going to skyrocket and move higher, right, during this initial phase? Well, we got a weekly slingshot. Well, what is that? That's my daily bottoming and reversing on the way up. That's my 4-hour bottoming and reversing on that initial move up. Well, the 4-hour then tried here to depressurize slingshot lower. Why would that not make a new low and then reverse to the upside? Why would that occur and fail and turn out? Because the daily was reversing directions and my weekly was engaging in a slingshot higher. That's all I got to do. Align the time frames, and it's like shooting fish in a barrel. That's how easy it is. So I'll go ahead and turn it back over to my wife, and she will show you what we have to offer. Okay, yes, Trish wants me to share something else with you before we switch over. You'll notice this gold trade, there is a trade management system. This system is so high-tech and so unique that if I trade gold, silver, stocks, I can use forex, any symbol that's in this platform, I can use it and tell this system to sell the rallies in a downtrend. And it will automatically sell based on triggers or based on slingshots. And then, of course, in an uptrend, I can tell it to buy triggers to go higher, or I can tell it to then buy slingshots when they engage higher. How will I know what I want it to do? I simply look to the higher time frame. When my weekly's moving higher, I expect my daily to exhibit this behavior. Try to slingshot lower, fail, then slingshot higher and higher, onward and upwards. As my weekly was moving up, my monthly was moving up.
For those of you that can't be in front of the charts.
So for those of you that can't be in front of the charts all the time, you can set this in advance to trade for you while you're asleep or away from your computer. And simply by telling it whether to trade long or short, in the trend of the higher time frames, and then specifically whether you wanted to buy, in this case, buy triggers, or sell triggers, or sell slingshots, or buy slingshots. And this little console here below this trade management system shows you what type of slingshots are forming, what type is forming up or down, and then they actually go bolded in color when they're truly engaging. How cool is that? So those of you that are somewhat skeptical, I know there's a lot of options out there, a lot of options as far as different services you can try. This one I recommend you try because you got nothing to lose and everything to gain. And watch how gold continues to move lower while the daily heads lower. My 4 hour is going to do what? It's going to, as it depressurizes, so I'm going to go back to gold real quick. My daily, while it moves lower, continues to push lower and head lower. My 4 hour is going to exhibit what type of behavior? It's going to depressurize and slingshot lower. Notice gold's giving us a little bit of a retracement while it's depressurizing, ready to form the next slingshot. Just like it did on this up move when my daily was moving up, my weekly was moving up. That was part of our $140 trade to the upside, and we're going to show you those results now. Not only do I mention it, but I will show you the actual results of some of those trades. Here's some of the results. Gold, here's an example in gold. It was up a $50 move. This is from a little while back before we were moving in much higher correction. Over a $50 move using the trade management system. Next one is of gold to the downside using the same principle of time frames aligning and selling a slingshot. This is over a $50 move, $54 move to the downside based on the cycle of time frames. Those of you that do trade forex, here's one of our students. He submitted based on the cycling time frame. He contributed multiple trades tallying 8,600 pips. If you had one standard lot, add a zero. That's $86,000 on one standard lot. It went on to run, because of the monthlies and the weekly cycling, went on to run up to 18,311 pips. Do the math on that. One standard lot would have put this at 183,000. Here's a picture of his screenshot from that same trade station that he was running these trades in, multiple trades. Notice, a lot of these trades are 1,000 plus pips, 2,000 pips, over 2,000 pips, 4,000 pips. As you tally all those, 18,000.
Very proud.
Very proud. Here's that gold trade I mentioned that was underway. This was the previous one before we went on the downside. We were still cycling up. We were buying slingshots all the way up. And here's a tally showing we were up over 22,000 on gold as it was rising. We knew we were expecting it to continue to go higher. So the next one shows a continuation of that. Now it went from 1263 price range up to 1279. Now it's upwards of 25,000, moving higher. And before it finally topped and reversed, we closed our final take profit. And this is in this next one. You can see down here, it moved up to the $1,293 range, just right at 1,300, before it finally took our last profit and closed that last leg of that trade, 28,000, just on that one gold trade. Unbelievable, and it's simply the same process. So the good news is, once I understand the cycling time frames and I learn the system, I can use it to trade stocks, forex, commodities, futures, any symbol of 800 plus, and the same principles repeat itself over and over and over as the time frame cycle. So here's something that for you option traders, we have students that actually trade options. And he was talking about as he was using the software, I was so excited I exited my short position making 1,200. Then entered later the day for 300, both using options. If I had done this on my own without the software, I would have bailed on it long ago for a loss. How many people may have get in a trade and then bailed on it and then ultimately turned out that price moved and you would have turned into a positive trade? If the time frames are aligning, that's exactly what you can expect. Now he's looking to make obviously additional profit. And he was talking about oil at the time. If black gold continues, I will have paid for my subscription in a matter of a trade or two. And he not only did a sample subscription, he did an annual subscription.
And private coaching.
And private mentoring and coaching. Thanks for all the hard work in developing the system. As price proves its intentions, my ability to use your system improves. He's going to drop his financial advisor and several newsletters he's currently paid for. He's also applying for a forex account to add to his thinkorswim accounts. And it's all a matter of using the time frames. And what is he going to do? He's going to tell his brokers in Australia and Switzerland exactly what to trade, when to buy and sell based on the software cycles. That's very impressive. So, what exactly is your Master Trader program? You showed us the software. It includes the Master, and as far as the Premium Edition 2 software. It includes, which we did not have a chance to go in depth about, live trading classes. We have live trading classes 3 times a week, average 2 hours per Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So you average 6 to 8 hours of class every week, live trading. And it includes the trade alerts, which we showed you some examples of. And again, those of you that trade S&P, just the E-minis, those trade alerts made 40 points, 50 points, 70 points. Even the most recent one from today, the 4-hour slingshot up, made over 30 plus points. Put that in your E-mini account, see what that can do. Now, what exactly is the software? We didn't get a chance to go through all of this. We have 2 different scanners. I showed you one of them, the Slice of Heaven. This market scanner, since it's a short class today and not enough time, actually allows you to put whatever symbol you're interested in trading, and it will automatically give you the picture of where the daily, the 4-hour, the 1 hour, the 15 to 30, if slingshots are forming, if triggers are firing. It shows you the whole spectrum of everything at a glimpse. The Slice of Heaven Finder I just showed you is totally customizable to do monthly, weekly, daily, 4-hour. Those of you that trade maybe weekly options, you can use this to find a daily setup with the 4-hour, 1 hour, 15 and 30. Weekly options don't give you a whole lot of time for price to move. So it's imperative that you get stock movement within that week, or they're going to expire worthless. So you want to make certain that the daily's in agreement with the 4 hour, 1 hour, and 30. That's where you can get a burst of movement. And then along the way, it gives me, my trend is now changing due to a slingshot engaging, allow you to close some of your contract or even close that trade totally. It also includes those slingshot trade triggers. We briefly showed you. When the time frames align, I get different types of triggers. It automatically does the looking left and right for me to tell me how the software time frames are aligning. And of course, you briefly saw this with gold trade running and other trade pictures of it, the trade management system. 100% customizable. I can tell it to trade when I'm away from the computer. I can instantly use it to trade while I'm at my computer. I can tell it to buy uptrends, sell the rallies in a downtrend, or buy the dips in an uptrend. 100% customizable. And of course, there's a couple of things we didn't even get into. We have what we call a platinum, brand new, a platinum Asia scalping system for those of you that want to be day traders of stocks, or perhaps forex traders that want to do simply short-term trading. Scalping system. As you can imagine, it still involves multiple time frames, but it's on a lower scale. We're not looking at weeklies, monthlies, dailies. We're looking at 4 hour, 15, 30, 1 hour, and it goes all the way down to a 1 minute.
That was for the Asia trading session.
And that's for specific for Asia trading session. And then we have the new Triple P. The Triple P scalping system is another one where I can use the lowest of time frames. But remember what we were showing you. Remember this slingshot phenomenon? Whether it's on gold, futures, commodity, stocks, doesn't matter the symbol. Doesn't matter the symbol. The same principles apply. Well, guess what? The same principle applies when my 4 hour is in the process of topping and rolling, for example, and my 4 hour is moving lower. Then guess what my lower time frames are doing inside the 4 hour? Just like I showed you on the daily, etc. Well, what do you think my 1 hour is going to do inside of that cycle? My 1 hour is going to do what? Should it try to slingshot up, it's going to fail, give me a price pattern reversal. Then it's going to slingshot lower, 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 finishing that 4 hour cycle. Well, I can then go from a 1 hour cycle and say, what is my 30 and 15 going to do? And the process continues and repeats over and over. So you can imagine as a scalper, if all I'm looking for is a point or two on the S&P, or simply a what? Couple of pips on a forex pair, or a couple of 50 cents or whatever move on a stock, I can use the same principle and know exactly what behavior the time frames will exhibit when I line up the higher time frames. So let me show that again. So in the case where we were showing, this is just gold again, no matter what the time frames, if I'm a scalper, trader, day trader, and I simply want a small scalping technique, we were showing early on when my monthly, weekly, and daily move, my daily will slingshot lower, lower direction of the weekly. As we showed over here, my daily will slingshot higher, higher when the weekly's higher. My 4 hour will slingshot higher, higher when the daily's higher, moving up. Well, look when we go to lower time frame. I'm just simply taking the 4 hours that's topping and rolling headed lower. What do you think my 1 hour is going to do while my 4 hours moving down? Headed down, headed down. My 1 hour is going to show that exact same behavior. And what is that? It's simply when I top and roll, my 1 hour, should it slingshot up, it's going to fail, and then it's going to do what? Slingshot lower and lower and lower. And this is very small, lower time frame, but look at some of these slingshots. You're talking in the neighborhood of, that's about a 160 point move on gold, or a $16 move on gold. And even the smaller ones, even these smaller ones make significant movements. And I expect it to slingshot lower and lower when what? My 4 hours cycling down. So I can repeat this process over and over, and I can do it when my 1 hour tops and rolls. My 30 will do it, right? So when my 1 hour's topping, what type of behavior does my 30 show? As I scroll back to that same picture, it shows the exact same behavior. So once I learn it, ladies and gentlemen, I'm set. I can trade any symbol of 800 over 800, and the exact same principles repeat themselves over and over and over with the highest of probabilities. And again, these new scalping systems take into consideration going down even to the 1 minute. as it cycles in the 15, 5, etc. So hopefully I've gotten your attention that just based on simply learning cycling time frames, we can interest you regardless of the type of trader you are. And here I'm going to turn it back over to my wife as she loves Dave Letterman, and we're going to have a quick top 10 list for you. Here's Trish.
Okay, as Gary said, we don't have a huge amount of time to go over because we don't want to keep you too long. Gary and I are very passionate about what we do and love to instruct, and so Gary can go on forever. As you can see, he's a very passionate person, and his passion is in educating and instructing our students, and we are very thorough with our classes. But when we do these webinars, we just kind of want to introduce you to who we are and our program, and that's why we have a trial, so you can come on board and get a feel for it. And then if you're like the rest of our students, and you're able to join us for a longer term duration. But kind of want to go over what we covered in the softwares. Again, our software is unbelievable. I don't think you've probably ever seen anything quite like this. We put a lot of time, thought, effort, and resources into developing it. We have been in business for many years, and we've trained and educated students from around the world, thousands of students from around the world. We have a lovely group of traders, and so I just kind of want to give you a little top 10 list of what the software does, as Gary was able to briefly touch on it. But our beautiful MPAP2 software calculates support and resistance levels automatically. All that's done for you, identifies the trend of each time frame, monitors and tracks time frame cycles, which is extremely important, as you know and as you've learned today, provides consistent entries, exits, and take profit levels based on trade triggers, slingshots, and profit triggers. Our wonderful one-of-a-kind trade management system, which our students love and adore. You can set it in advance, and it's completely customizable for your entries. Automatically manages your trades from entry to exit. Fits any trading style. We have the dual scanners. The scanners scan the markets for the next big trade. As Gary stated, our software works on over 800 symbols. So we have there's a little bit of something for everyone in the market watch: stocks, forex, futures, ETFs, commodities, etc. Wide variety within the market watch. And then our number 10 of our top 10 is consistently delivers low risk, high reward, high probability trades, and we are extremely proud of that fact. So, as I said, you're a new audience for us, and we love to present to new audiences. We love to have new people come on board. We're, as I said, we're very enthusiastic, and we love to welcome new students on board. So we have put together a trial for you. It's a really unbelievable trial because everything's included. The software, as I said, our one-of-a-kind custom software, our classes. We love to be in classes. Gary's very thorough. He covers the markets from top to bottom. And our students can request different symbols, and Gary's more than happy to cover that and give you a top-down analysis. And then we also do trade alerts, and Gary went through some of our trade alerts with you. He sends out trade alerts a couple of times a week, and we also have classes 3 times a week. A lot of our students are unable to attend live classes due to other commitments, so each and every class that we conduct is archived for your viewing pleasure, and we promptly post those on our website. So you have access to everything 24 hours a day at your convenience. And then the trial is $97 for the first month, and then beyond that it's $3.99, which is very reasonable because, as I said, you get everything. You can take advantage of everything: the software, the classes, and the alert, and everything is available for you whenever.
If you find you only need the basic software.
And we also, for those of you that may not be able or interested in all the bells and whistles that we have, we do have a basic version of the software that doesn't include the trade management system and all the bells and whistles. It's more of a pared down software, but it's great for, it's a great software for those that don't need all the bells and whistles. And we also have that available beyond the trial. If you're interested in that, we can give you some special pricing on that if you just send us an email after your trial is up and say, hey, I don't need everything, but I am interested in continuing on with the software. We do have that option available for you as well. So we hope I'll post the link in the class. It works in MetaTrader platform, and we use the JFD broker is the one that has over 800 symbols in which to trade, and we also do Windsor Direct because it has a variety of symbols in which to trade as well. But it's a MetaTrader platform. It's a free platform, so there's no fees associated with the data feed. It's all free. It doesn't work directly in Thinkorswim, but that's not necessary. You can't put your software in every platform out there. But as you saw in our options trader's testimonial, he actually uses Thinkorswim, and he still uses our software as well. So, everybody always wants to know, does it work on their specific platform? But really, it's not necessary to do that. You can still place the trades. Gary's been a trader for forever and uses multiple brokers to place trades, and still uses our trading software through MetaTrader. So that's not a worry if it doesn't work in your specific platform. That's not an issue at all. We have traders, as I said, from around the world, and they use a variety of platforms to trade live, but you can still use the software through the MetaTrader without any issues. Students do it every day. So it's not necessary that it works in Ninja or Thinkorswim or whatever zillion other platforms are out there, because Gary trades in a variety of platforms and has done so many, many years and without any issues. So and our motto behind our software, which is very powerful, Market Price Anticipator software empowers you to read and anticipate price in any financial market, on time, in time, all the time. And that is the most important thing you can have when you are trading. Something reliable that gives you consistent results, and to have the creator behind it teach you all the ins and outs. Because I know there are a lot of people out there promoting things that they're really not associated with the product. They just promote it. Well, we're different. We're a rare breed. We are in the trenches with our students every step of the way. And Gary loves that fact, and I love that fact as well, that we stand firmly behind what we produce, and we walk you through the process. So once you join us, you'll have a link to download the software, you'll have a link to get MetaTrader and the different platforms set up. Then you have links to join us in the classes, you have links to how-to videos, the educational modules. We have a massive amount of material available for you, so you won't be left in the lurch. I mean, you have so much material available, you'll be thoroughly impressed. Very, very, very thorough with our training. And what's wonderful about it is that you can take it at your own pace. You can start, go through, learn a little bit, continue on, but you will never be without proper information. That's one thing that we are strongly and firmly behind, is a proper education. You must have a proper education to be a successful trader. And then along with that, we have created this masterful software for you to use. And Gary's showing you a picture of our world map, which we're very proud of. Once you visit our website, you'll see our world map, and there are 104 countries represented, which we're extremely proud of. And whenever we get a new student, their world map, their flag pops up on our world map. So we're very proud of our world map. It's very interesting to view all the flags from around the world. We're very proud of that. So if we have any other questions, we'll be happy to answer those for you. I think we've pretty much covered everything. As I said,
look at how many trades are coming up right now.
And Gary's showing going to pull up the Slice of Heaven 2 finder. As you can see, there are a multitude of trades setting up.
eBay, Costco,
a little bit of everything, and you can customize. The neat thing about this Slice of 2 Heaven Finder is you can customize that. You can go through the Market Watch and say, hey, I'm only interested in U.S. stocks because they're stocks from around the world, or I'm only interested in forex, or I'm interested in a little bit of everything. And you can completely customize that so it will pull up whatever specific findings you're interested in. And then, as Gary mentioned, you can also customize the time frames for those findings. So
for example, I set mine to U.S. stocks and forex.
Gary will set it for U.S. stocks and forex.
Now it takes everything else out.
And then it'll limit your market watch down, so you can narrow down your findings. Some people like it to scan everything because they trade a little bit of everything, but if you're not interested in that and you want to pare down, you can pare down the market watch and specify what particular findings you're interested in. It's very neat and rare that you have software that is this customizable. I mean, we have really thought of every detail, and once you come on board, it's kind of hard to go through everything in a webinar because we don't want to overwhelm you. But once you join us, you will be able to go through and see how completely customizable this truly is, and study each one of the components, because there's a lot of neat, cool tools to use, because Gary loves to trade and he loves to create cool stuff for our members. So if we don't have any other further questions, I guess we'll go ahead and close for today. But I'll put in our contact information so you can contact us if you do have any other questions. We'd be happy to answer those. And also, we did record this, so in the coming days you will get a replay of this recording in case you want to review whatever we covered a bit more thoroughly. We'll send that recording out for you, so we hope you will take time to watch the recording, and we also welcome and invite you to join us. We'd be thrilled to have some of you join us. We see we have some new students joining us as we speak, so welcome aboard. Hope to see you in class with us. Yeah, today's Thursday, so we have a class on Monday.
Special class on Monday.
Yeah, we have a special class on Monday. Typically our classes are Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Sometimes we adjust the schedule if there's travel or something involved, but we will adjust the schedule. But typically Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursdays. But next week we're actually doing a class on Monday. So our new students will be able to join us on Monday, and when you join us, you can go ahead and get started with the materials so you can, get running and up to speed right away. So thank you again for joining us. It was wonderful to present to this new audience. You aren't a real chatty group, but nevertheless, we were thrilled to present to you. We hope to see you down the road, if not in class next week or in our archive. We call our students that don't attend, we call those our archive land students, because they follow along with us strictly via our class archives. So thank you again for joining us, and those of you that have not joined us, we hope that you will take advantage of this trial offer and join us as soon as possible. So take care, good luck, and God bless.